Welcome back to On the Ground. I am your host, Shannon. Hope the viewing angle is better this time. Last time I didn't really check it, or I posted a recent video of me just getting off work, but on my video before that I didn't check the viewing angle and had to readjust it after I recorded because it was like, looked like I was sunk down, which I need to get a new chair for my desk. I kind of the shock that holds it up kind of failed. It is a cheap, reasonably reviewed, had reasonable good reviews several years ago. It's just wore out now. Anyways, on my most recent video before this, I took a video of me just getting off work after a 14-hour shift, and I look dehydrated and rough and stuff. But anyways, when you're working 14 hours in a factory and you have a very busy day. When I say busy, I'm talking about being on your feet for 14 hours other than when you take break. Because there's no sitting down jobs. You're always on your feet, and you're always oftentimes on the move, physically actively doing something. And it may not be the same exact task or job, and sometimes you gotta move quickly, and it may be that way for hours, which is why there's been a lot of people come and go since I've been working there, and I've been working there almost 3 years. At this job, a lot of factories are similar, but these are just a lot longer hours. So I'm going to touch on that for just a moment. On our Fridays or Saturdays, after we finish our production, we have to perform sanitation as well. It's a butter factory. But in a lot of other factories, food production, and food facilities like that, they usually have their own sanitation department that does the sanitation. But here, the same people that do the production must also perform full sanitation. And on Fridays and Saturdays, we do full sanitation, and we have to clean additional things on Fridays. We have to clean it once a week, certain things. But like the production room, and the packaging room, and another production room, and a few other rooms, we have to clean every 72 hours. And it's for hours, and the water temperature is like 165 degrees, so it's very hot, creates a lot of steam. So you'll get hot, the room be full of steam, and it's for hours on end, and you'll be wringing the sweat, and because you're constantly moving, you gotta hurry up and get stuff done because you just have a whole lot to do. And there are days where, this is just like going to the gym for 12, 14 hours. It takes a while to get conditioned for it. A lot of factors that way, depending on the department. Some you're just on a line and doing the same repetition of movements, which can be hard on joints and stuff, very common. But in a lot of the jobs I've had, not all, not all. At this factory, there's a lot of different things you got to do, so you're not stuck doing one exact thing. Now, there's been times when I perform a task called strip and butter. I did that probably almost the first consecutive year. You get to move around a lot more, but that's pretty much what I did 80-90% of the time, which is pretty much a lot of labor. A lot of people just try to shy away from it and not do it and try to do something else. Somebody's got to do it, but I end up doing it. But it's just a lot of manual labor. It takes time to get conditioned. Like I said, a lot of people don't last. It takes a few weeks to really get through that process. And then, it takes time to get more efficient. There's times when I have to operate more than one line or unload more than one line and run a machine or a small case or packer and load pallets, and and it's just you're constantly, it's a lot of work. You stay in shape, you know. But anyway, so, I look pretty exhausted on my most recent video because, I was tired, kind of pale, dehydrated, that's because, you're going 3 and 4 hours in between breaks or more, sometimes more. And no water, no nothing. Just constant manual labor. A lot of people's their faces will be red, and I call this one girl tomato face, and she's like, I'm tired, because her face is so red. It's not easy. They're young, so they should be okay, but it's rough. Well, of course, the women don't have to typically do the really hard stuff, and they're not expected to. But some of them do pretty good. Some of them have taken years to kind of get them more used to work, and you gotta stay on them because they don't. Some of them, this is their first job. They don't understand how it is out there in the real world. Some jobs are much more difficult as far as not being on your phone, not texting, things like that. Some places there's no tolerance for it. Period. It may seem unreasonable, but that's just the way it is. They don't want you on the phone. That's their rules. If they think you're on your phone, they think, well, if you have time to be on your phone, then you have time to work. They have a no phone policy. You keep it in your locker or in your vehicle or something, but you don't have it on the production floor. Maybe some factories will or less, they're not as strict or, show more leniency, but some it's automatic termination. They'll tell you, when you start, we have a no phone policy. You do not carry your phone on the production floor. You leave it in your locker or maybe the break room, depending on the factory, but, but having your phone on you can get you terminated. That's just the way they are. They want you to work. They're paying you to work. They're not paying you to text. They're not paying you to listen to music on your phone. They're paying you to get the job done. And that's just the way it is. And it makes sense, they're not just paying you to be there. They're paying you to get something done when you're there. You may just be a number to them, but that's the whole concept. So, anyways, I got that out of the way. Let's move on to the next topic. I want to talk a little bit about this upcoming ATV. It's supposedly already launched, but to my knowledge, no dealerships have them in stock currently that I'm aware of. At least they're not listed on any websites or anywhere, dealer websites, whatever state. And there's little videos on them. But this is a new Can-Am. They're coming out with a new one, new design. It's called a 500 and 700 Outlander. It replaces the 450 and 570 engine class. 500 and 700 is kind of misleading because the Can-Am, the new Outlander, has the same displacement engine, 650 cc's. Okay, it has 650 cc's. The 500 model has like 40 horsepower, and the 700 model has like 50 horsepower. But they're both the same displacement. The 700, to my knowledge, uses different pistons and cylinder heads, or maybe it was a crankshaft. I don't know. You'd have to look into it to know more specifically, but basically you can't upgrade the 500 to the 700 even though it's the same basic engine. It has, unless you buy the internal components of the engine, maybe to really change it. maybe more to change it. So maybe stuck either buying one or the other. You can't make it a 700 or get it that 50 more horsepower. But anyways, one of the ATVs I was considering, not saying I'm going to buy it, is the Can-Am Outlander Pro. They have a Can-Am Outlander and a Can-Am Outlander Pro. The differences between the regular Outlander and the Pro model, we're going to watch this video. You can find it on YouTube if you want to see it yourself. But I'm going to give my input on it. The Pro model has different clutching because it's work oriented. It's a work oriented model, whereas the regular Outlander, the 500, 700, is more of a trail riding recreation, which may be more desirable for several as opposed to the work oriented model. This model is kind of geared towards ranchers and farmers or people who want a work utility ATV. I don't know that it's any on par with like a Honda utility ATV. It has a CVT, and we'll look into this visually, this CVT, since there's not much content on it, but it is different than the Can-Am 850 and 1000. They have not changed those as of yet. Now, the 2023 850 and 1000 have these same headlights, LEDs, and they have the engine braking. You can change the engine braking settings to be minimum, medium, and maximum settings for less or more engine braking. And you have the sport mode, work mode, and performance modes that change how the machine performs for different tasks. That's basically, again, another computer programmed setting that controls engine performance. Anyways, so I was looking at this model. The Pro model, it has different clutching in the transmission to give you more low end and medium, mid-range, torque. I don't know how dramatic it is. There is one or two videos where they ride this and compare it between the regular Outlander and this one, and it is geared lower. It has a lower torquier area, range down low. Anyways, so this is the Pro model. It also has stiffer shocks. Okay, so the Outlander 500 and 700, the non-Pro models, probably have a smoother, more comfortable ride, whereas this is probably going to have a much stiffer ride because of the settings of the springs, the shocks. They're set for, where you put more weight on the racks to hold it more firmly, and it's more firmly planted when you're going around turns and stuff like that, whereas there's not as much body roll compared to the regular Outlander, which if you're a rider, shifting your weight from one end to another on like a trail machine is kind of desired. It will not major body roll, but some, for maybe speedier trail riding. Whereas this one's, it feels planted. It just doesn't have that kind of body roll. But it's designed for work. It's meant to handle more weight on the rear and on the front, and maybe even as it pertains to pulling a trailer or something, or dragging logs or whatever, in a more stiffer way. So it's designed that way. Now, as for the long term, like versus like if you had a Honda, I don't know. Can-Ams, there's just not a lot of information, mainly that you would find on the internet, or me having personal experience with them for the long term. So I just don't know how they really hold up over time. They haven't struck me as a machine that will hold together similar to like a Polaris over time. Like they just start rattling loose, over several years, becoming looser, and just having stuff fail compared to like something like a Honda would, or a Japanese manufacturer model that just seems to be a much more solid machine. Now, looks wise, aesthetics and fit and finish, they look pretty good, in my opinion. The tan, I like the tan, for example. The bumpers seem to be somewhat heavy duty, but I have not been able to see them in person and really evaluate it visually. I know with I had a Polaris Ranger, and for example, like this bumper, the coating on the bumper, it's like a textured coating, but once it gets hit by something, it cracks and it starts rusting, and it's not that strong. Whereas they say this is pretty strong. I don't know if it's on par with Honda. I know with like the 850 and the 1000, their frame, GL2, if I think it's, or GL2 frame or something like that's the name of it. Based on people who own them and work on them and have more first-hand or hands-on experience with them, claim that they use a thinner metal for their frames. Because I had heard that people with the Can-Ams, at least some of the models, I don't know about the most recent ones, but there were issues with them cracking the frame. Like they'd be riding and they maybe hit a swoop or a jump or ditch and hit a rock or something and it cracked the frame. A lot of people counter this by putting a full body skid plate on it, and that seems to solve that issue, at least for some. So if you're looking into those models, you need to look at common issues with them, and a weak frame or potentially a damage in the underbody of the frame. It's supposed to be thin metal. The individual also said that it was gusseted well, which means it's welded in between the cross members and stuff well. So that kind of offsets the thinness of the metal. Now, as for these new models, they have a different chassis and frame. I don't know if it's cheap, thinner metal or if it's thicker metal. I know these models run cheaper than the 850s and 1000s. Doesn't necessarily mean it's made, as far as the frame, cheaper, but usually they save costs somewhere, and I don't know if they're saving costs there on these. Again, they haven't been out long. They haven't even made it to the dealership showroom floors, or and people haven't bought them and took them out and really put them through their paces and put them in real world applications where we can see and make an assessment. But like this model without the tow hook and this, and there's a little cargo box. The bone stock, the MSRP for this machine, and I'll show you here in a little bit, is $7,299. And there's a commodity surcharge of $250. I tried to understand more about what a commodity surcharge is. I researched it, but it didn't really explain to me. It didn't explain to me or clarify whether that was the same as like a freight, you know, and destination charge like with Honda's website. So I don't know. I noticed with the this base model Outlander Pro, they also have a Pro XU model, which has some more features, and I'll touch on that here in a little bit. But this is just like my personal overview by what I've learned by the machine, and then a little personal input and other information I've gathered regarding Can-Ams, because I've never owned a Can-Am. My uncle owned one, but I've never owned one. And I drove his, but that was like an Outlander 400 several years ago. Like, I don't remember what year it was. You know, it seemed okay, but I didn't ride it too many times. But he ended up, no, he kept it and eventually sold it, but I don't know if he just didn't like it or just quit riding or what happened. But anyways, so let's watch this video, and I may pause it partly through. But so I did some math using some of the figures that Honda dealership charges, since they also sell Can-Ams too. And I'll touch on that here in a little bit to show you what maybe the out the door price is without being able to get more accurate figures. Because there's some charges I don't know, so I just kind of used the same charges and fees with the Honda to this MSRP to get an idea of how much it's going to cost. And, so, anyways, let's watch this video.
Hey guys, welcome back. We are here looking at the all new design of the Outlander for 2023. This one is a Pro model. So this is the work and utility edition. Let's check out some of the features on this one. So as you can see here, not only does it have a metal rack on the top for storage with link compatible mounting points there and even on the deck lid, but it also, underneath this, has a generous amount of dry storage. You see that gets your tool bag mounted there, but a great deal of dry storage underneath the front. Nice seal all the way around. Sits flush so you can still mount something over the top of the rack, over the top of your box. Has this beefy grill guard surround on the front. It's a pretty awesome toe hook point there as well. Walking around, I've got the side cover off here to be able to show the Rotax engine power plant. More storage mounted back here on the rear. This one is an open cargo box. Some soft tie-down points and all here. Check it out. Again, this is all new for 2023. This is the Outlander Pro.
So this is the Outlander Pro. If you haven't heard about it or watched anything about it, like again, this is a video on YouTube. You can look into it yourself. You know, I like the way it looks. I like some of the features that it advertises that it has. But you know, and I try to take care of my machines. I don't tend to get into the temptation of popping wheelies or doing burnouts or, you know, anything like that. That's just not how I ride. You know, I almost baby the thing because they're expensive, and I work hard for the money, and you know, if I go to trade in or sell it, I want it to be in good shape. I don't want to have to constantly perform repairs on it. So me personally, I'm going to be comparing this as far as quality, reliability, as well as capability with Honda and Yamaha and Kawasaki, and Suzuki as well, given their reputation of proven reliability and stuff. Plus, this one's a little bit more expensive than some of the other models I'm looking at, like say a Ranch or maybe even a Foreman. But this one, the HD5, it has 40 horsepower, which may be adequate and sufficient for me. The HD7 is a little bit more expensive, and we'll go to their website and look at the pricings and look at some of the different specs and some of the different features. And so we'll go over some of that in this video. That's the plan. But anyways, so I like the looks. The stock tires are 6 ply according to Can-Am's website, so they should be a pretty firm tire. The tread looks like proper, reasonable compound for a stock tire. They do have ITP Terra Crosses on their Outlanders, the 850 and 1000s on their XT models. So this, I don't know. I read the brand, but I wasn't that familiar with that tire manufacturer, I think. I'm telling you correctly. But also some of the accessories, like they have an extended console, and we'll look at a video that shows that, and windshields. Now for a windshield from the brand itself, I kind of like their windshields and their heated grips. They have a number of accessories for these machines that Can-Am makes, but they have integrated heated grips that are a little more innovative and what do you call it? More easy to use. I mean, how they perform, how they hold up and stuff. Again, can't really determine, it just tends to take years to establish, usually. So, sometimes with some of these manufacturers like Polaris or Can-Am, and maybe even the other manufacturers, they seem to try to offer things that, for example, Honda doesn't, because a lot of them are trying to compete with Honda's reputation of reliability. They either aren't established or such, or they just don't have that kind of quality. Some of the old Can-Ams, when they used to call them Bombardier, which is really the company that owns Can-Am and Sea-Doo and Ski-Doo, their machines weren't necessarily the best quality. I mean, they've come quite a bit of ways. The Rotax engines is hard to determine. I have seen the 850s and stuff taken apart, so I'm aware of the build quality of the engines. They seem to be fine for the most part. Some people compare their Rotax engines to the engines that they use in airplanes, but I don't know that they're of the same caliber and quality as their, so I don't know that I would compare them that way. I'm not saying Rotax is bad, but maybe the engines are fine, even on Polaris, Can-Am Polaris, but there's a lot more. The transmission, the chassis, the suspension, brakes. I know with the 850s and 1000s, oftentimes after a long ride or several rides, the machine will squeak a lot. So it means you need to get grease and a grease gun and put grease in all it, go to all the fittings and put grease in the pivot points and stuff what that requires grease to address that issue. And there's several videos that will show you that on YouTube. But they are known to squeak after rides, so you need to grease them. But some of the accessories that they come, this is a base model. It don't have any kind of hand guards or heated grips or aluminum wheels. The Pro XU model does, and other accessories. Let's see. Let's go to the engine. Trying to get a good visual here. Alright. Taking a look at the engine here, at least by the casting and the bolts and stuff. You can't really tell much about the internals, obviously, but it doesn't seem to be cheap. I don't know about its overall design. If you're wanting to stick it in water up to here, I don't know how well it would handle that. Let's move back. Got right here. I notice it's got a bar right here behind that fender. I think the bar goes up like that as part of the chassis or structure. Haven't seen that too much with other ATVs, but I like the way it looks. I haven't been able to sit on one or again look at one in person, which is something I would do. I don't know about the thickness of this metal. I don't know about the stock CV guards, the guards for the CV joints. I don't know about the strength of the axles or the quality of the differential, I believe it does have front disc brakes. See what the rear of the machine suggests, if it shows much. It doesn't show much here. Let's see. It does come with the receiver hitch. Of course, this is the work-oriented model. I'm not 100% sure if the regular Outlander does, but this one does. Again, if you look at these tires, they look for stock. It's just tires, but for stock, they look reasonable. I don't know about these bolts as being adequate for lug nuts, but maybe. I know with the Pro XU model, the throttle is different because on the Pro XU model, it has like a cruise control top setting, a speed limiter. You can set it and you can adjust it almost like in modern cars, how you can, if you set cruise control and you can push a button and go up a little bit or down a little bit in speed. The Pro XU model, which is the next one up, it's kind of like the Pro Deluxe model, but it's called the Pro XU. It has that feature. It has the engine braking settings. This one doesn't have the engine braking settings. It has a locking differential. The Pro XU, this one I think just has the Visco Lock QE. They don't have the 4 lock like the XMRs and stuff have, and the XTP like Outlanders. But it's more expensive than a Honda, in a lot of ways, but as far as it being on par with Honda, I just don't know. It's hard. It's hard to put that kind of money into something that you don't have anything to go by based on what it offers, advertises, and its looks. You know. You know, you can look at the frame, but you don't, unless you cut into it, you don't know how thick or what gauge of steel they're using. You know, ATVs they're put in rugged situations, and you're gonna hit a tree sometimes, or to some extent, or rocks, and you don't want it to dent or break or bend the chassis. You know. Because if you damage one part of the chassis, if you have to replace it, you have to take everything off, get a new frame, put it all back on, and you still have what might be a weak frame. I don't know that this one has a weak frame. I don't know. So, but it may be just fine. It may be really good, but it's hard to determine that based on a lot of stuff that I've been able to come across. This guy here, TK Power Sports.
Your new home needs more than just...
For 2023.
Now this is the Pro XU model. He got a test drive on this track and stuff. Comes with the rims, different tires. It has the locking differential. Of course, you're gonna pay more money for it. Has the speed limiter. Again, because it's work oriented. Part of the reason why it has like that cruise control feature is if you're pulling a sprayer or something on a farm or something, that's so you can regulate and control the speed and the pace that you're doing that. I don't really want to watch too much of his channel or video. You can watch it yourself. See, on the controller here, it has a speed limiter, and I guess I don't know, I haven't been able to look at it, but there's some way you can change to accelerate and speed it up by just controlling it and slowing it down, based on my understanding of it. Let's see. Let's see here. It has the open compartment here to where you can stick your phone. Has like a magnetic place to keep your phone, and based on his review, or what he said, is it has a USB connector here. You can plug your phone in inside that compartment. So a lot of people might like these conveniences. Me, I oftentimes will set aside conveniences initially, because I'm looking at the main part of the machine. Is it reliable? Is it capable? And then convenience aspects. You can have all these conveniences and a smooth ride, power steering, but if it won't hold up over time, it's just like almost throwing money away, in my opinion. I mean, to each their own, as some say. Also has this type of rear rack design where you can put stuff in there. It does have anchor points. They have their link system. Panels. The CVT housing there. Something I noticed about these Pro models, and maybe with the other Outlanders, is the backing of the CVT is cast aluminum, whereas on the Outlander 850 and 1000, I believe, is plastic. Not that matters a whole lot, but I just like the idea of a black, or not black, but a casting metal as the backing of the CVT as opposed to plastic. Don't know that it matters a whole lot, but to me it just seems to be better. Again, the engine. Let's see what else we got here. In this guy's video, an overview, which is one of few. Let's see here. Let's see what we got going on here.
7, I mean, it's 10 horsepower on paper, but out here in practice, it's not crazy. I think where you really feel it is in the top end, but then we also have different clutching here. The Pro models get unique clutch setups to make sure you have usable torque at the low end. These machines aren't concerned about top speed and, actually kind of maximizing those.
Also, I'd like to add, I believe they come with power steering,
yeah, really nice beefy
even on their base model.
Although at the sort of top of the RPM range, the power kind of falls off a little more noticeably than the HD7. So that's one thing you're going to notice, but you could get the HD7 in this platform as well, so that's just totally up to you. I was just impressed to see that going for the smaller engine, yeah, it's not a huge hit in power, and don't forget, it is the same as the standard Outlander, so it really does allow me to feel...
That's weird.
Standard Outlander, so it really does allow me to feel the differences. Now, the big thing is, this...
Just like I was mentioning earlier, because the Pro model has stiffer suspension, you won't notice as much body roll. Now, the rack ratings for the Pro and the regular Outlander, according to Can-Am's website, is still listed the same, but I don't know that that's accurate due to the fact that they do have stiffer and stronger suspension on the Pro models to handle that. But anyways, it may just handle the same amount, but much more in a controlled sense, just like you might have heavier duty brakes on a heavy duty truck to help control the weight you may be hauling or pulling. So it may just help
stays
with
dead flat through the corners, which is kind of a good thing and kind of a bad thing.
He talks about this, so again, you can watch his video. Let's see. Again, I like the looks of the machine. They also have these accessories like for a chainsaw and a place to where you can put a fuel tank, which seems pretty nice, but you don't have to have that, but it does. They have their own, and it does look pretty good with their machines, but it's not. If you're buying a machine to really use it to work, then who knows? I don't know if it's on par with the Honda. Let's go back here for maybe one more video or something on it. Here's the Pro XU.
Hey guys, welcome to Jack Rabbit Off-Road. We are here
See, it has
at
the
the
aluminum rims,
dealer convention for BRP, checking out
some of the accessories.
some all new Outlander models. Check out that.
It
This
has
is
the
the Outlander Pro
4-lock,
XU
6-block
HD5.
tires. I think the base model also has 6-block
This
tires.
is, as you can see, set up more for the utility and the farming. This is the get work done model. As you can see, they put in some pretty handy storage compartments. Not only do we have a
Again, you can watch these videos if you want to watch them. I'm trying not to make my video too long.
But they also have made a really handy LED lights. This is an all new design model. This is so they have metal racks front and rear, great for tie down storage and all. They do have a new double A-arm suspension system in the rear. It's a departure from the systems in the past for Can-Am, so this is an all new suspension design. This one is the HD5.
So, here, this one has
Alright guys, we're here at the Club BRP show. Checking
this
out
was
all
another
new
model. This is like a hunting edition Pro. Has school, it's camo and it has skid plates.
setup here.
It also
It's got it up front. There is dry storage underneath.
hold on a second. video didn't seem to work so well. Let's see here. This might be better.
And we're gonna start in the front.
Again, you can watch
So
these
again,
videos.
we've got the bumper plates, we've got the lights, but we've got our new late gun case. Okay.
I wanted to.
Move over to the console extension.
The windshield. So this is the type of windshield and console. If you live in cold climates, that may be something that will interest you, whether it's plowing or just keeping the wind off of you. That may work pretty well based on
So we've got a
the
magnetic
design.
phone holder plate.
So.
You stick to the back of your phone case, and then it just magnetizes here. I'll take a volunteer to come and see how
But
this is held in place.
I don't know.
You'll see that it's pretty solid.
Like this control for the speed limiter adjustment, I don't know how reliable that would be to use daily over time. It may fail, under real use for a long period of time. So I don't know.
We wanted to do a different scenario here where it's
If you're just going to use it for work periodically, you may be fine. I don't know.
so
I think this is another.
Hey guys, welcome back. We are here looking at the new
No, it's not that one. This, I think, is.
New models.
Got
everybody's
people.
tearing them apart.
Trying to find out more about. I can see this. The frame is gusseted, so it may be the same thickness of metal. But anyways, so let's move on to percentages. Well, let's go to Can-Am's website. Here we go. So this is the base model Pro. Let me go back over here to the regular Outlanders. So you have the Outlander 500, 700, the Pro, and then the 850 and 1000 Outlander. And it's the starting MSRP. But me, I want to focus on the Pro in this video because that's kind of one of the only ones that I'm interested in. So the MSRP for the base model, let's get down here. For the base model is $7,299. And it says transportation and preparation not included. Then it says commodity surcharge of $250 will apply. So I don't know if that $250, you say you add it on there, so it's going to be $7,550. Before taxes. I don't know if they're going to add an additional transportation fee. If it's comparable to Honda's, I don't know. And then the setup preparation. I did do the math using Honda's destination fee and freight surcharge. I don't know if freight surcharge and commodities the same, but I just went ahead and added the same that Honda charges plus the $250 plus the MSRP plus the $219 document fee. I don't know if these figures would be the same with Can-Am or not, but I added, because the same dealership sells these as well. I haven't asked for a quote on them, but so I did the math with all those fees, and I come up with a total $9,173.69. After I did all the math. So the MSRP, $7,299 for the base model, not the Pro XU or the hunting edition one. But after all these fees and taxes, not financing it, out the door price, I pretty much calculated it to be, and by the method I mentioned, at $9,173.69. So the difference in the MSRP and then out the door price with all these fees and taxes and stuff was $1,874.69. So when you see this $7,299, pretty much what you're going to be paying is going to be $9,173.69. That's what you're going to actually be paying versus the advertised price. So it's almost $2,000 more dollars. So, you know, you can sit down and do the math on any particular model or whatever you're going to buy, motorcycle, ATV, side by side. But, it's good to kind of sit down and figure how much you're really going to pay for this. To avoid going through the process and realizing how much you end up paying for something that, after you've had a while, especially if you're financing, you're just dumping all this money into something that's kind of outweighing the benefits or enjoyment you may be getting out of having it, or whatever your reasons for it may be. That's out the door price if you go there and hand them the money. Whether you got approved for a loan at a credit union or somewhere else where you got lower interest rates or something. But if you finance it, then you have to do the math on interest over however many months. Okay? So, if you're financing it, you need to do the math on how much that's going to cost you. Because it may be $1,000 or $2,000, even more. So you may be paying $10,000, $11,000, maybe $12,000 for something that has an MSRP of $7,299. Yeah, you might be able to get it quicker than saving up the money, but like I said, new wears off, and you're gonna still be paying for several years. If you're okay with that, then that's up to you. But so let's get aside from the MSRP and the cost stuff, and let's look at some of the specifications for this model. It comes with 26-inch tires, 6-ply rated tires with 12-inch rims. That's what we're seeing here, based on what they're advertising. It has a front and rear arched, so it's not just the regular A-arm, it's kind of arched, which I don't know if Can-Am Outlander 850s and 1000 have the arched A-frame, but I know that the Polaris Sportsman Ultimate Trail editions, I'm pretty sure do have that, which basically means it's A-arm and then it kind of squares off a little bit. It gives a little more ground clearance. It's a more recent A-arm design. So we'll go to the engine. Before I go any further, this HD5, because I'm thinking, this HD5, it's the HD5. This is the 40 horsepower model. Okay, $7,299. Now let's say customize my own. basically built. They offer these package deals, but let's just assume we're not getting no bundles. It's just a continue without bundle. But you can select all a bunch of accessories. I've evaluated this. It's, again, this may be misleading, so don't base it on what you see here. Okay? Don't do that. I mean, you can do that, but my recommendation, don't do that. Try to find the real out the door price and the real monthly payment if you're financing it, and the real overall total before you ever agree to anything. Unless you just have all kinds of money. Okay, so this is it starts you out with the HDR or HD5 HD5 engine, which is the 500. It's not a 500cc, by the way. But here it starts you out with the HD5. It's a 40 horsepower. But we'll go back to the specs. But since we were talking about MSRP, I wanted to point this out. You click the HD7 engine, which is a 50 horsepower version. You automatically go to $8,099. So that's before sales tax, fees, and everything else. So they added, so it's $8,100, $73, $800 more dollars. Okay. So, I don't want to sit here and go through the whole math again, but just by going to the 700, you get $1,000 more. Okay. And that's before all the fees. So if you want to do the math on that, my advice, figure that out, and then you gotta. So I'm gonna say it's gonna be around 10,000, or a little over. So let's go back to my goodness, goes back far. Huh? All right, to the engine. HD5, HD7. Engine displacement, 650 cc's. Two different types, HD5, 40 horsepower, 37 feet-pound of torque. Rotax ACE, which means Advanced Combustion Efficiency. Not familiar with what that is. Single cylinder liquid cooled. The HD7, 50 horsepower, 41 feet-pound of torque, same. Electronic fuel injection. P drive primary CVT with work calibration, extra low, high, neutral, reverse park. That's the transmission. So I'm not 100% sure. We may look that this is work calibrated, which may have to do with the clutching, the springs, the weights, So this again is the base model. This one don't have driving assistance or power steering. That was my mistake. I think if you go to the Pro XU, and we'll look at that, the difference, you get it. But not with the base model, just the Pro. You don't get driving assistance or power steering. Selectable two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, lock, four-wheel drive with Visco four-lock. So actually, it does list four-lock, which means you do get a locking front differential with the Pro model. It's my understanding that you didn't, but I guess you do. At least according to this, seems to suggest that. Suspension. Double A arm, 9.75 inches of travel, twin tube, front shocks, rear suspension, double A arm, 10.25 inches of travel. Okay, tires and wheels, 6-ply, 28 or 26 8x10s and 8x10s for 12. So they're actually the same tires for the front and rear. Brakes, dual disc brakes in the front, single disc brake, hydraulic piston calipers in the rear. Dimensions and capacities. The length, 89 inches long. The width, 48.8 inches wide, so it's almost 50 inches wide. And the height is 48.2 inches high. Wheelbase, 53 inches. Ground clearance listed here as 13 inches. Estimated dry weight, 800 pounds. Ride capacity front, 120 pounds. Rear, 240 pounds. Storage capacity, 9 gallons. Oh, storage. I was thinking fuel. Storage capacity, 9 gallons. I guess that's with the front. And the front and the center here where the fuel tank typically used to be on older model ATV. Most of them. Some still do. But it has a towing capacity of 1,830 pounds, which is pretty good, at least based on their specs. And it has a 5.1 gallon fuel tank. And I'm kind of going over specs because this is a new ATV. It's just coming out, and it does have some appeal, at least to me, but doesn't mean that I'll choose it. Seat height, 38 inches, 38.6 inches. Features. Digital display, anti-theft, mechanical key, LED headlights, seat standard, steering wheel standard, premium front bumper, rear bumper, full skid plate. So it does have, warranty 6 months. Extended service, be best term available up to 36 months, 3 years. I don't know much about that, so. Anyways, so that's the specs. More pictures and what have you. Let's go back to models. ATVs. Pro models. The Pro XU. See, it already starts out at $8,899. Again, that's the HT5, so it gets, for these features, you get adjustable engine braking, like with the 850s and 1000s now. RF digitally encoded security system, DESS RF key. Tri-mode dynamic power steering. So with the Pro XU model, you do get power steering. Engine's the same. Fuel delivery. Intelligent throttle control. I think that's the different power modes like sport, work, and performance. Work calibrated. So what's kind of odd is this one has, with the Pro XU, it has selectable 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive with Visco lock plus auto locking front differential. The other one had 4-lock. According to the specs, I don't know if it's inaccurate. Maybe not. HD5 driving assistance, intelligent engine braking, speed limiter, like I mentioned. But then you have to go to the HD7, I think, possibly, to get the work, standard, and sport modes, intelligent engine braking speed. So I guess with the HD7 you get these 3 settings: work, standard, and sport. So maybe not with the base models, HD5 and 7, or the HV5 on the Pro XU. You have to go to the HD7 Pro XU model to get those features, power features of work, standard, and sport. Again, that's the way I interpret the specs on their website. Get power steering. Suspension, I believe, is the same as mentioned before. The tires are XPS Trail Kings, 6 plies, same size, but XPS Trail King. Cast aluminum, 12 inch. Brakes are the same. Dry weight's 16 pounds more. Everything there seems to be the same. No winch included. Oh, maybe it has a USB phone charger. Maybe they don't have that on the base model. I don't know. Exactly. Warranty's the same. So, so we just covered the Pro model. So I kind of just wanted to make a video about something today. And again, I've been talking about ATVs a lot again. So, yeah, it's already 8:22. And I'm still drinking a little coffee. But I just too tired to get up today. Today's Sunday. Saturday, it's kind of a odd day. But they keep putting stuff on there that I don't really want to see. They definitely try to advertise women in bikinis and yoga, and I notice they keep putting stuff on there. I don't research or look at that stuff. Now, ATVs, military stuff, maybe some current events like with Taiwan or Ukraine or something like that, I might look at. I don't know why they recommend movies. I've watched some movies, but not any of these. But then they got like news. I guess they do advertise some news. I don't know. Trying to see if they're putting stuff up here that I don't look at. And here's another of some news 7 hours ago. And then here's some more news down here. And more news here. I don't know if there's any politics. I mean, the majority of the stuff is related to stuff that they suggest that I look at, but there are some things. Like, on the top, right across here, it's women. I mean, I'm a man, like women, but I don't look at this stuff as the thing. So I'm suspicious of why they're posting this stuff. Used to be, which I don't see it no more, they used to put a lot of these female pole vaultists, Olympians, that, they were almost half naked. And I don't look at that stuff. I don't watch that stuff. So I don't understand why it does seem to keep track of stuff like ATVs, some news, United States Navy, sometimes, I watch that. Wow. Gaming? Not really. Air Force, yes. Driving. Engines, tanks, industry. Basketball? I guess if you look one video of something, they add some stuff on there. It don't have no Olympic stuff, but that women's stuff, I don't know. Like what robots from Japan? I mean, it's half naked. I mean, why is that there? What does that have to do with anything I look at? I don't even really want to look into what that's about. There's one channel that it keeps showing up as a woman. She's nearly half naked. It says off-grid. Now, I've looked at off-grid stuff before, but why it's putting sexually oriented stuff on my webpage, I don't know. Or on my YouTube, I don't know. I can't remember looking at any of that stuff or anything related to that to where it might throw that on there. You know, I'll be honest with you, I just don't know why it puts some of that stuff, some of the political stuff. I know I don't, but I don't know. I don't know what it's connecting it to. I guess if you watch, well, what's happening with Taiwan or what's going on in Ukraine, it throws all this other stuff on there. I don't know. Lord knows I don't know. Anyways, so I just want to make a video about that Pro model. You know, I need to get some videos up going, and you know, thought I might make one today. But yeah, I'm still looking to buy an ATV, Lord willing. That's what I'm trying to do. Ain't much else to do when you work and you can't get out and do much. I mean, it's starting to warm up, so you know, I'll get out and about more than in the wintertime. So I guess that's going to conclude it for the most part on this episode of On the Ground. And before I close, you know, I want to give thanks to God for another wonderful day, all His mercy and faithfulness and blessings, because again, He has blessed me in what might seem to be little ways, but it's a blessing. God's gracious. He's good to me every day, and I just want to give a testimony of God's faithfulness and kindness and patience and mercy. And, you know, just stop for a moment and give thanks. I mean, the least we could do is just stop and be still and know that He's God and appreciate that, He gave us life. We get so wrapped up and consumed in whatever it is we're doing in our lives that we don't stop to think about the one who gave us life in the first place, and that we have privileges and just have our being and exist. Like Job said, naked I come in this world, naked I leave. He went through a great deal of trouble, and he realized that even if there's bad things that happen, he can't really tell God, that he's wrong for it. Some people try to write God off as not even existing because they don't understand why bad things happen. Like God is obligated to not. Just because bad things happen doesn't mean that God isn't good or that God doesn't exist. Some people interpret that as an indication that there is no good God. Yeah, there is. It just, we don't know everything. We don't see everything. And no matter how hard we try to, we're just not going to be able to figure it all out. It wasn't meant for us to. There's a lot of reasons why God wants us to have faith in Him. And faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things we don't see. That's God's way. To have faith in Him, to trust in Him, to believe in Him without seeing Him. It's righteous in the eyes of God for us to live by faith. It's morally correct to have faith in the midst of what seems to be a reality that challenges the existence of a divine being as reality, But that's just the reality of life. It's just the devil has been at work ever since the beginning to create everything that he can to challenge the reality and existence of God. He does not want people knowing that God is real or believing in God. His His original name was Lucifer, okay? But God cursed him. So that even the name Lucifer is not desired, okay? It is evil. It has been cursed. He has been cursed above all else because he was the first to commit sin. He started this whole fall. He just started this whole mess. All the suffering and pain. He is the one at fault. He is the one rebelled. Even though God allowed it, even though God knew it would happen, God's not at fault. And sometimes we just don't stop and think why that might be. God doesn't force us to do what's right. He lets us have a free will so we can choose to do whatever we choose to do. Doesn't mean we won't have to explain ourselves to him. Doesn't mean he doesn't have the power over us or to cast our soul into hell. Doesn't mean that we don't have to explain ourselves to him and be judged by him according to his standards. God don't necessarily see things the way that we do. You have to understand that. There's a reason why God spoke and declared that his ways are not man's ways. The course of the world, the common way of thinking that people think is typically not the way that God thinks. People think that God should see it their way. But people don't stop to realize they can't even fathom what all the knowledge of all things is because they don't know of everything to consider. God knows all. He is in all places at all times. I mean, it's well beyond our control to even understand or fathom that, you know, if you really think about it, you wouldn't even know how to function because you wouldn't know where to begin. You wouldn't know what to do, how to understand life. But, we needed guidance and understanding. And God's word provides that for us. You have to understand, God did not leave himself without a witness. Okay? That's what this is all about. This Bible, the Holy Bible, it is not by coincidence that it is the most powerful book in the world. It obviously has sold more copies, a little dust on the Bible, but I read online all the time, every day, or on my phone. But it is not by a coincidence that this is the most powerful and influential book in the entire world. But the majority of people never really read it at the same time. People rely on what other people tell them about what's written in here. Which is why, again, I say, read it for yourself. Because you're never really going to know what's in here if you do not read it. You can't be afraid to read it. You might not even clearly understand what you're reading. But if you get online, as is convenient in our present day, you can learn what's written in here. My advice, stay with the King James Version. Learn a little bit of Greek and Hebrew, Strong's Concordance, and go to places like Bible Hub or something that will give you a list of different versions of the Bible. There's 30 some different kinds of translations. And because some of them will kind of throw off your understanding of a specific passage. So it takes time to really get a clearer picture, sometimes, our understanding of what God's really saying in some things. But it is an obligation. Once a person's been told they need to read the Bible, they're now obligated to do so. It's called accountability. The one that knows to do good and does not do it, to him it is sin. So, God did not leave himself without a witness. So people can't say, well, there's no proof that God exists. It's right here. He said, well, that don't prove to me that God is real. Well, what you're asking for, you can't even bear to begin with. You say, why don't God show himself? Well, technically, in the form of his son, he did. You know, and people still didn't believe in him. You know, because people have trouble accepting the existence of God and his divine abilities and powers as reality. People have a hard time accepting that and grasping that, naturally speaking. To some people, it's a fairy tale. To some people that don't believe, people who believe in it are just fools in their eyes. But as the Word of God declares, the fool has said in his heart, there's no God. We shouldn't assume that we know there's no God, because we cannot prove that there's not, as much as people think they can't prove that God exists. Even Einstein, if I'm not mistaken, said it's wiser to believe in God than not to, you know. But God's ways are beyond our understanding, you know. But God sees everything, okay? But he has spoken to us, especially through the Spirit of his Son. And by this word surviving for thousands of years, to declare it unto you at this very moment. Well, let's just open some scriptures of the gospel here and see what the scripture says. St. Matthew, or Matthew, chapter 12, or not chapter 7, verse 12. Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. And that's just scripture I opened up and read. But that's all it takes. And God speaks. Some people say, well, people made the Bible. No. People did not make the Bible. People did not write the Bible. People documented Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Those individuals were there when Jesus was there, present. And they documented all that Jesus, well, not all, but most of what Jesus said and done. And it was predestined for us to receive it to this day. God has the power to make that happen. Okay? But, you know, people did not write this. People are not this intelligent. People are intelligent, but they're nowhere near this intelligent. What we read that happened thousands of years ago was predicted to happen presently. There's no way people have that ability. So don't entertain any other idea than the fact that God spoke, who sees all things, who knows all things, who inhabits eternity, who always has been, who always will be, and shall always exist. That is beyond our understanding to even stop and comprehend how God even creates an eternity, how he is and created everything, yet no one created him. But that's the way God created things. We see things from a creative perspective, so it's beyond our control and understanding to understand something that's beyond us. Again, it comes back to us just having faith in God. So I encourage you to consider this. If you haven't, read it. If it's been a while, pray. If it's been a while, pray. It's your first time. You're not being made a fool of. You're not being taken advantage of. You're not being deceived. You're being given an opportunity and a chance. what you're being given. So, repent and believe in the gospel, that your sins may be forgiven, and that your soul may be saved, and that you will be reconciled to God. If he says he will forgive you, there is no reason to believe otherwise. I don't care what the devil says. That's the devil saying, you did too bad. You've done too wrong. You know that's wrong. You know you shouldn't do that. You know that you're not fit or meet God's standards. That's all the devil. And whatever words he chooses and whatever tactics he tries, that's the devil. Okay? Not that we should just be forgiven and go on about sinning again, but, God will be gracious. He said that Jesus paid the price. So God's going to honor his sacrifice. Okay? Jesus wouldn't have went through all that trouble so you can be forgiven, only for him to say, no, you did too much wrong. He suffered too much for you not to be able to be forgiven. Okay? And he did it for that very purpose. For God so loved the world. He came into this world to save people who have sinned, and we've all sinned. He wouldn't have died for the sins of the world if somebody hadn't sinned. Everybody's sinned doesn't mean everybody's just the worst kind of person, but no one's without sin before God. We all need the blood of Jesus Christ to wash it away. Jesus wouldn't come to do that if we could have done that for ourselves. Not that we should undermine the wrong about our sins, but that we rather should repent of them and not pursue to repeat the matter. If we keep making mistakes, we just have to keep repenting and asking for forgiveness and keep trying to do the right thing. A righteous man may fall 7 times in a day, but 7 times a day we'll get back up and keep trying to do the right thing. That's the way it works. So I hope that you'll be saved, baptized, and receive the Holy Spirit and be reconciled to God. So we'll leave on that note, and I'll see you again here on the ground.